there's probably a really basic piece of maintenance that most of us are missing, and if you do this, it could absolutely save you a bunch of money. And I'm going to share with you a personal story of how I wasted a bunch of money by not doing this. This has been with liftedimports.com. You guys know that I talk a lot about doing CV axle boot inspections at every oil change, and that's essentially to make sure that if you have a tear or a hole or anything like that, you can catch that before you damage the actual axle itself. Because if you catch it early, all you got to do is reboot your OEM axles, and that's going to be much better than an aftermarket axle is ever going to be. And what this is simply your power steering rack. They have these bellows on them, and about 3 years ago, yeah, 3 years ago now, I moved to an area, and this area's got a lot more sand than what I'm used to. And so I never really took this stuff seriously, but your power steering rack on Subarus, it's basically a hydraulic pump, and you've got your inner and outer tie rods on both sides. And when you turn the steering wheel, what you're doing is you're forcing hydraulic fluid and extending one side or the other to determine what way your front wheels are angled. And there's a rubberish bellows, like a boot, on the inner tie rod of both sides. And what that does is that covers that cylinder that basically extends in and out. And what I discovered real quick is it only takes one trip out in the sand with a compromised steering rack bellow to completely destroy the steering rack. Now, here's what happened. I never looked at my steering rack, never gave a crap about it, and found out that's not really fiscally responsible. And what happened was, you know, I had a little tear on it, didn't know it, because they don't leak. They don't leak if they just have a tear, because there's no grease or anything in there that's going to go flying everywhere and present itself. And so I took it out in the sand literally one time, and what happened, because that bellows was compromised and had a small rip in it, that sand went up in there and made its way around the basically just the edge of where that piston comes in and out to push the tie rods. And I'm telling you, it ground that right away, man. It destroyed it. And a couple weeks later, I was like, man, I smell transmission fluid, what the heck? So I get under and I'm looking, I'm like, man, my transmission's not leaking, what's going on? Well, the power steering and the transmission on my vehicle, they actually share the same fluid. If you have something with a CVT, I don't know what they run in all the brand new Subarus, but you're gonna have a different fluid probably for your transmission versus your power steering. They may use power steering fluid, they might use some type of ATF, I'm not sure. But when you get under your car to do any sort of maintenance, whether it's an oil change or just to check things out and do a quick inspection, make sure you're looking at those power steering bellows. Just feel around, make sure there's no rips, anything like that. And this is especially important for those of us that drive old Subarus that have some miles on them. This car probably had 205,000 miles on it by the time that this problem occurred. And I'm going to put a picture up here in the video so that you can see what these bellows look like. I'll show you what the power steering rack itself looks like. And that way, when you get up under the car and you're doing your oil change, you'll know what to look for. But this is just a real quick tip that, you know, hopefully you'll be able to save a bunch of money. I actually just bought a new power steering rack, and it's not new, but it's OEM, lower mileage from LKQ. And I can't remember what I paid for that, maybe like 200 bucks. But it's kind of a pain. You got to get under there, pull everything apart, install it if you're going to do it yourself. And then afterwards, I'm going to have to bleed the power steering system and then take it in for an alignment to make sure everything's in spec. So save yourself a little bit of money. Make sure you do those inspections on a regular basis. Maybe you don't have to do it every oil change, but if you're under the car, why not? Just do it at the same interval as you would check your CV axle boots, and you should be fine. So I hope that's helpful for you. This is applicable to people that are not just in areas with sand, but also if you're in any area where you're going to be exposing the vehicle to dirt, mud, water, dust, anything like that. None of those contaminants are good for the power steering rack itself, but it's probably sand that's going to be the absolute most damaging thing that you could possibly introduce up into the power steering rack. I know we're getting a little bit closer to the warmer weather, so a bunch of you that live anywhere on the coast, a lot of us like to go out and drive on the sand in the areas where that is legally allowed. Maybe some of you do it in places that it's not legally allowed. But hopefully that is a money-saving thing for you so that you don't learn the hard way, and hopefully you can catch that before it becomes a problem. As usual, you guys can check out the liftedimports.com website. Take a look at some of the content that's over there. We got some good build features with people over there, a bunch of helpful tips, things like that. But until next time, I'll see you guys out on the trail.